I once read a book in 3 days. He takes out like hundreds of soldiers single-handedly with a hammer. And I'm freaking out. I just want more roaring. Basically go have nature therapy because they made some choices. Hi guys, welcome back to another Nerd Rants video. We're talking about a book series, again, for the first time in like 2 years. So, I got into a little bit of a reading slump about a year and a half ago, something like that. And I just no matter what I did, I couldn't get out of it. It was difficult. And then by the time you're watching this, well, not quite. Anyway, my fiance lent me the Eragon series, The Inheritance Cycle, and really wanted me to read it. Like, it's his childhood series, kind of like how things like Narnia and Brendan Mull series are like my childhood thing. So I was like, yes, I will read it. It's dragons. I love dragons. I'm down for this. So then I kind of forced myself to read. I got through the first book pretty quickly. Stalled on the second a little bit, but it wasn't awful. And then the third book, again, took me a little bit longer than the second book, but you know, these get progressively thicker, and even the first one's not very thin. So anyway, I, got through Brissinger by last October. And then he gave me Inheritance, the last book, and it took me until like 2 weeks ago to finally finish it. So almost an entire year after getting Inheritance, I finally finished it. And so it took me about almost 2 years to read the entire Inheritance cycle, which is so bad for me. Like, I once read a book in 3 days. It was not a short book. It was not as long as like Eragon or any of the books in that series, but it was a decent length book, and I read it in 3 days with my like school and work schedule on top of that. So it was just crazy. And honestly, I think I've read a majority of the book in the last couple months because I realized I haven't really been reading all that much, and I want to read more. And I also need to stop doom scrolling on my phone. So I've been trying to intentionally create the habit of reading when I get home from work rather than doom scrolling through Facebook or YouTube. So because of that, and Labor Day weekend, where I took the entire afternoon to just sit and read until like 5 o'clock, I finished it 2 weeks ago, like beginning of September. So that was really nice. And now I'm gonna try and recall all of the important things from the series so that I can rant about them to you, because it's been almost 2 years since I read the first book in the series. Oh man. I really enjoy this series. Christopher Paolini does an amazing job with the world building, and the characters are all very distinct. They have their own voice, they have their own motivation, they're all very three-dimensional. Even the passing characters, like he writes them in a way, like the extras and whatever else, he writes them in a way that there's some character to them. They're not just a piece of dialogue in the book that's there to move the story along. So it's all very intentional with the characters that he brings in, that he reintroduces later on in the series. He doesn't leave any loose ends. It's he does a very good, he writes very well. And going through that, I think it was 18, they said he published Eragon, which is absolutely insane coming from someone who is kind of an aspiring author. Not exactly at this point because, you know, this year has been crazy, but like has tried to write books, is currently developing like 3 different worlds and 3 different storylines. Like, I would love to write for a living, but yeah. So coming from someone with that background and from early teens wanted to be a writer, him publishing something with the girth and the quality of Eragon at 18 is just nuts. So he's very impressive in that sense, and it just continues to get better as he goes through the series, and it's really good. So I'm very impressed by his talent and his skill with writing, and just the depth of his world, the depth of his characters. It's all so good. So that's my overall review. Very good characters, very good storyline, very good world building. The languages and how he works them in to the story is also cool. So it's really fun, and I do highly recommend the series. It is the books are a little bit of a beast to get through sometimes, because they are thick, and some of the chapters are like 25 pages long, which is almost as much as a shorter chapter in a textbook. So, but it's all good. It's so great. Okay, now more specifics. First of all, something me and my fiance are completely in agreement on. Roran is the best character and the main character. Like, there sometimes, especially in like the 3rd book and the first half of the 4th book, I would have rather, like, I looked forward to reading the Roran parts of the storyline, and then when I had to go back to Eragon, I was subtly disappointed and had less motivation to keep reading. Like, Roran is literally the best character in the entire series, and you cannot convince me otherwise. The man is just... he is one of the most stubborn, determined men alive, who loves his, well, by the end of the series, wife so deeply, and loves his people and his home so deeply, and he uses that as his motivation and his drive to fight. And because of that, he feels all of those things so deeply, he fights with such ferocity that he takes out like hundreds of soldiers single-handedly with a hammer. It's it's so good. Like, he goes from being the son of a farmer in this tiny little village to leading the village out of, like, leading the village and to fight back against the Empire's soldiers. Then it helps them escape out of their little village through mountains, down the coast, steals a boat, brings them down to where the Varden, the rebellion, is, joins that fight and proves his worth, and then slowly, like, goes further up and up in the ranks of the Varden, becoming a captain and of an entire battalion of soldiers, and then by the end of the book being rewarded as the Earl of his hometown that he goes back to rebuild. And the boy goes from farmer's son to nobility in the span of like a couple years. Like, that the series can't cover more than a couple of years. It's just mind-blowing, but also it's done so well, and Roran deserves every bit of this respect and control that he gains throughout the entire series. He's just insane, and we love him. And every time he was on the page, I was so in. I was so invested. It was great. So Roran is the best. He is #1 character in the entire series. We love him. If I had to pick some other characters, Murtagh is also up there. I love Murtagh. I love me a complex character who fights between the light and the darkness inside them. Because, oh man, I'm legitimately obsessed. I created an OC that literally has light and darkness at war inside of her. I create characters that are connected to the two different sides of some sort of conflict within a series, and so there's that conflict, so there's that like darkness and conflict inside of them, and so I'm obsessed with complex, very like conflicted characters, and Murtagh is very much that, because he's the son of a Forsworn and technically one of Galbatorix's assassins, but she's way more of a good person than anyone thinks she is, because she's very good at covering it up. And so he has that conflict within him, and then on top of that, he's Eragon's half-brother, and there's that conflict is added in, and he sits there with just this question of, why did my mother save Eragon and not me? And there's just, he's written so well, and I love him so much. Like, he turned on that, like they thought he died. I was like, no way he died. One, because I know there's another book that came out in the last couple years that is about him. So it's like, no way he dies. He's not dead. And then he comes back, turns on them, comes up, has a dragon, turns on them, reveals that Eragon is his brother, and I'm freaking out. Because now he is sworn to Galbatorix and has to do what Galbatorix tells him to do, but at the end of the final battle in the second book, he finds a loophole to go against Galbatorix to help Eragon. So the goodness is, you can see from the start, the goodness is not all gone inside of him. But as we go through the books, he gets more hopeless of him being able to escape Galbatorix, and sees the power of Galbatorix and starts to lose hope of the Varden ever being able to defeat him. And so we see the hopelessness grow inside of him and weaken the light that is inside of him, and so he gets more ruthless, and it's so good. And then by the end of the book, we have him and Niswada in a romantic relationship, which I was not expecting. I had no idea, I had no clue that Murtagh and Niswada would be a romantic relationship, because they probably meet once or whatever while they're in Trondheim before the battle with the Urgles, so they probably met like once, because he's taken from Trondheim when he's kidnapped. And then like a year later, he meets her again when she's in prison, and we see the goodness inside him again, because he tries to find a way. She gets captured because he convinces Galbatorix not to kill her. So he doesn't want people to die. And then it turns romantic, but it's done well enough that it works and it makes sense, because they are kind of in the same boat. They are both captives of Galbatorix. One having gone through what Niswada is currently going through. And so they're both trapped, they're both prisoners, and they are all each other has, and they're the only ones that they can be truly honest with each other. And it works, and it works really well. I was just not expecting it to be a thing. I'm not mad about it, but I was not expecting it to be a thing. And now he left, and so I'm sure that's what like the Murtagh book is about. So it makes me wonder how that's going to work, and if that's like it's going to be addressed, because they both feel very deeply for each other. That's a whole thing. When he's leaving and Eragon goes and catches up with him, and it's a whole thing in their conversation. So and I'm sure it'll come up. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Because at some point, not right away, because I have other series that I need to read for other people, I will read Murtagh, but it'll be very interesting to see how all that plays out, and see, because I'm so pumped, honestly, for an entire book about Murtagh. The only other person I would get this pumped about, the only other character in the series that I would get at this pumped about seeing a side, like a little side book or side series or whatever about, is Roran. Like, I want more Roran. Like, his story doesn't necessarily require it. Like, we get enough of his page time and we see kind of everything that he does throughout the story. So he doesn't require it. His story arc starts and ends within the inheritance cycle. But you sit there going, I just want more Roran. So it's like, he doesn't need another book or another little series thing or whatever in order to grow his character. He's done his growth. He's finished his arc. But you just want more Roran. So that's where I'm at. So the character that definitely did need a book was Murtagh, and so I'm very excited about that. Yeah, all the characters are good, so it's like, I don't know if there's any others that stand out right away that make me go, yes, you are top 5. It's mostly Roran and Murtagh that I freak out about. Eragon is a good character, but like, so he might be in the top 5. Niswada's a good character. Oh, that's so bad. Arya. That was really bad. I was mixing her name up with one of my OC's names, so I was like forgetting for a split second. Arya, like they're all good characters, and so many of them are like on the same level in my brain, so it makes it hard to pick a top 3 or 5. But it's good. We love the relationships they create. Like I said, Murtagh's complex relationship with Eragon. We have Arya and Eragon's relationship which is kind of cheesy. The romance aspect of it is kind of cheesy, but he does handle it very well and adds the tension, whatever else in there, the challenge of their different races, their different lifespans, their different this, that, or the other thing. And he does challenge it well so that it balances out and it's not just cheesy. So that's good. The relationship between Eragon and Braum is wonderful. Even post Braum's death, as he discovers more about Braum and realizes Braum is his real father, and all of those things, like the relationship still holds bearing even after Braum is gone, which is so good. Even like Braum and Jode, which we don't get a whole lot of, but like their history, and you can feel the history between them that they have. It's so good. So yeah, Christopher Paolini is insane, considering he published Eragon when he was 18. Like, the skill level is insane. So yeah, really enjoyed it. It took me a little bit to get through because reading slump, but we're getting out of that. So that's good. We're gonna hopefully be reading more books now. We'll see. Anyway, I really enjoyed it. That's really the main thoughts I have on this. Partially because details are a little lost over time, but also, you should all know by now, I believe characters are the core of every story, and he does characters really well. So it's the main thing I have to talk about. I will talk about the final battle though, because the final battle is great. Because the whole time, like, he leads up to Galbatorix really well. It's kind of like the Fire Lord in Avatar, where we don't get to see his face for the entirety of season 1. We get to see his face in season 2, but he doesn't fight anyone. So we don't get to see the power of Fire Lord Ozai until the end of the series. And it's a similar, he gives Galbatorix a similar treatment. We don't get to see his face until the final battle. So it's like even more so, he keeps the mystery of Galbatorix throughout the entirety of the series, because we don't see his face until the end of the series. The final battle is when we reveal what he actually looks like. We don't have him in the same room as another character in like real time versus flashback until Inheritance, when he is torturing Niswada. We don't get to see his dragon until right before the final battle. He just puts the suspense and the buildup in there for 3 3/4 books, and it's just suspense and lead up and laying down his reputation and building up the fear that people have and bringing in all these questions like, how do we defeat this, through the entire book. And then coming up to the final battle, they have some semblance of hope. They've come up with a reckless last-ditch plan that might work, and they face him, and suddenly they realize their thoughts about how powerful he was were not enough. And he is more powerful than they could have imagined. And he knows the name of the ancient language. He can control magic. He is far more of a threat than they realized. And their plan, this slim glimmer of hope that they had, suddenly gets crushed in a matter of seconds. And they're just sitting there, and Eragon's trying to stall in the hopes that something happens, that he can get some sort of idea as to how to defeat him. And just all of this, and all of a sudden he has the idea, in his desperation and him struggling to going through all of the pain that he has seen since going out to fight the Empire, and suddenly having this thought of, I just want him to know how much pain he has caused, how much hurt he has done, all of the lives that he has destroyed, and having the dragons help him formulate a spell to do that. And suddenly he's just getting overwhelmed with the pain and the heartbreak and all of the things that he has done to other people, until he literally blows up. And it's so good. Oh, it's so good. Like, the suspense and the buildup of Galbatorix as a character, as a villain, was so good. And then getting to the end and the payout being even more than what we are building Galbatorix up to be. So good. Yeah, I really enjoyed this series. It's very good. The characters, the world, the story, the final battle, it's so good. And we end it with such bittersweetness, because Eragon has to leave in order to fulfill his duties as the last dragon rider. Because Murtagh goes off and he needs his space. Like, I need to go off in the woods and figure out what the heck to do with myself now, because I'm finally free of Galbatorix, and I have been a dragon rider. As long as I have been a dragon rider, I have been under Galbatorix's thrall. So I need to go out and figure out who I am, who Thorn is, who we are together as riders, and just basically go have nature therapy. And Arya is now queen of her people, but also a rider, and she is now stuck to some degree. She is queen of her people, so she can't fully be a rider like Eragon is. And so Eragon, as the only full rider, has to go out, leave Alagacia to raise the dragons and raise the new generation of riders. And it's so bittersweet, but it's also so satisfying, because it pays off on a prophecy that we got in the first book, that he would leave Alagacia and never come back. And he leaves no loose ends, and it's so good. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the inheritance cycle. I very much enjoyed it, and it was a little embarrassing that it took me 2 years to get through it. But we did it, we really enjoyed it, and it was just so satisfying. Just the depth to the story, the depth to the character, the depth to the world, and all of the payoffs and no loose ends left behind, and all of that. It's so good. Christopher Paolini did an amazing job with that, and it's just insane. I will say, I read the first book, and then, because I had a very vivid memory of the first sequence in the Eragon movie. I know, we don't talk about the movie, I'm aware, but I had watched the movie however many years ago, and had a very vivid memory of Arya sending Saphira's egg away. And so I just went, you know what? what the heck? Let's watch it and just like see how bad it is. Cause I knew and I've heard how bad it was, but I hadn't read The Inheritance Cycle yet. So I finally read Eragon and went, let's find out how bad this really is. I actually think I was like halfway through Eragon. And let's find out how bad this really is, because I hadn't even made it to Gilead, I think, and I watched the movie. Half the book is cut out. The characters are cardboard cutouts of people. We're fast tracking everything that happens, and then they have the bright idea to not only cut the first book short, but to get rid of book 2, 3, and 4 and slap a very unrealistic final battle to defeat Galbatorix at the end of the first movie. So they're like in Urbane fighting people instead of in Trondheim fighting Urgals. They are fighting the Empire soldiers and Galbatorix himself, and I think it still just ends with Durza dying. Like, I don't remember if Galbatorix dies too. I know Durza dies, but I don't remember if they actually killed Galbatorix too. But like, it basically full on finishes the series by cutting the first book into a third and skimming over that content, and then getting rid of the other 3 books and slapping a final battle onto the end. I was halfway through Eragon, the first book in a 4-book series, and I had way more storytelling, way more depth, way more everything than I got in that movie. Because they made some choices. And there's a reason there were no more. Now, I think Disney is doing a series for The Inheritance Cycle, and I believe Christopher Polini is involved. I haven't like looked it up actively because I don't care about Disney and Disney doing anything and touching any of the things I love, and my childhood absolutely terrifies me. And any book adaptation that is a series that anyone in Hollywood is involved in absolutely freaks me out because of Narnia and what the heck is happening with Narnia as a reboot, which I hate with a passion, and I hope gets canceled. But if it doesn't, I will refuse to watch and just... So yeah, I'm somewhat scared of a series, an adaptation. I'm glad it's a series, and I'm glad Christopher Polini is potentially involved. Those 2 things give it some hope, but I'm still scared because I can't with reboots and remakes and adaptations anymore because they're never good. Anyway, those are my thoughts, my tiny rant about remakes. I've ranted about it before. Yeah, my thoughts on Inheritance Cycle. Feel free to share yours in the comments. I post videos on this channel on Saturdays, on my audiobook channel on Thursdays. I'll see y'all next time.